Check, check. 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 Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, greeting of virtue. Good morning, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start, I would like to welcome all of the participants who have come, and we are delighted to welcome you to guest lecture under the title Creating for Everyone Using Multiple Tools. I'm Yasmin Zalivia and
And I'm Hilma to be standing here and greet each and every one of you in this event. We would like to express our sincere gratitude to Honorable Vice Dean of Educational Faculty, Professor Dr. Budi Parwoko, Master of Education, Head Department Undergraduate Program of Educational Technology, Dr. Utaridin, Head Department Undergraduate Program of Special Education, Dr. Pamuji, Professor Susan Ledger, PhD, as our speaker of today's guest lecture. Today's moderator, Ima Widianti.
step on the following agenda is singing the national anthem Indonesia Raya, UNESA Mars, and Faculty of Education Mars. Those on duty are welcome. All of the participants, please
Indonesia tanah airku, tanah tumpah darahku. Di sana aku berdiri, jadi pandu hidupku. Indonesia kebangsaanku, bangsa dan tanah airku.
Cek, cek. Cek.
Before we continue to the next session, we will pray together. Pray first. Pray start. Pray that.
Check. Next, we will hear some opening remarks from Vice Dean of Educational Faculty. Please welcome Professor Dr. Budi Purwoko, Master of Education.
Ya, terima kasih. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. All participants, halo. Yang saya hormati, Prof. Susan, Ingat pagi ini kita masih dalam rahmat kesehatan, kesempatan untuk berjumpa, diskusi keputusan yang luar biasa akan berada di fakultas kita selama 14 hari ya, 2 satu sangat berharga bagi kita untuk menimba ilmu ya, menimba ilmu dari beliau. Yang kedua dengan topik yang relevan tentang untuk sharing
Give a round of applause for Vice Dean Professor Dr. Budi Purwoko, Master of Education.
Next, we will hear some. Sorry, The first participants are required to rename the Zoom account with format name and institution. Participants may ask questions in two ways. Raise hand that are using feature in Zoom or via chat box. The attendance link will be at the end of conference.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing our meeting to the next agenda, which is the keynote session will be led by moderator Ima Widiana MPD. Give a round of applause for our moderator. Check, check. Check. Ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing our meeting to the next agenda, which is the keynote session will be led by moderator Miss Irena Yolanita Maurin. Give a round of applause for our moderator.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning everyone. Good morning Susan, Pak Budi. Very honored to be with you today. Bu Neni, Bu Tari Dewi dan Pak Pamuji dan teman-teman semua. Thank you. Today we have Professor Susan Ledger as our guest lecturer, especially for educational technology departments and also special education department. Okay. It's a long way, Susan, from Newcastle. Try to find the CV. Susan is a Dean of Education in Newcastle University. Is the the faculty is not social future. So when I read the name of the faculty, it's so interesting because usually it's Dean of Education or Faculty of Education. But this one, social futures. Wow. Okay. So it's really Susan will be very perfect for our speaker today, talking about catering with multiple tools. So it could be for educational technology or special education, right? Okay. So we have Susan now, please. Yeah. Okay.
I had one talk yesterday, one talk today, another talk next week, but there will be some common messages. So if you've been in my talk yesterday, there'll be some common themes that go from yesterday to next week, because I want all students, semua mahasiswa harus dengar message yang sama. Itu penting. Okay? So terima kasih. So if I've got my PowerPoint. And for all those out there in Zoom land, hello, can I just have a little wave for the Zoom land people? Have we got anyone out there in Zoom land? Ada orang di dalam Zoom atau tidak? Ya.
Ini bisa ditampilkan nggak?
Sistem tidak jelas. Oh, 90. 91. Bagus, terima kasih for coming. Is that right? So today, catering for everyone using multiple tools. Our job is a teacher, and thanks, Pak. First, yang pertama saya harus ingat dan what's acknowledge to recognize my orang asli dari Australia. Itu penting di dalam Australia. Kalau ada percaraan atau event harus bilang respect untuk orang asli. So orang asli dari Newcastle, orang Awabakal, and semua tanah dan skies all belong to and are looked after by our orang asli. So it's important to recognize that. And I want to say or give respects to elders past, present, and in the future. In the same way that in your religions and in your culture that you respect the elders, we are respecting the elders because our orang asli in Australia, 60,000 years looking after Australia. So this is me, Ibu Suleja. I study policy and practices impacting teachers, teaching and preparing to teach in diverse students and contexts, teaching diverse students and diverse contexts. And on my right-hand side, I look at diverse contexts, diverse cohorts, diverse curriculum, diverse approaches, and diverse methods in my research. I've only had my PhD for 10 years. I was late getting my PhD because I was teaching. Where's that? But yeah. If you scan that code, it should come up with my school. Yeah, comes up with School of Education. Yeah, and other lots of things there for them. So that's where I'm from. And our aim is to shape teachers who shape the world. Because teacher education is really sorry, I keep forgetting. Maaf ya. Semua orang di Zoom. Sorry. So let's just go back and I'll just go back and I'll just remind them. Back, lagi. Yep. Oh, no, the scan, the QR. If you do the QR code, you'll learn about my school. And if you scroll down, you'll look at what we're good at, you'll look at my research fields, you'll see where my staff are good at research and teaching and learning. And one of those things is technology. Okay, so please scan and that will get you to the website. So let's go. Lagi. Okay, so today, 3 things. We're looking at local, national, global role, your job as a teacher of special and inclusive education and educational technologies. It's really important, your jobs. We'll look at the law of 3, and I introduced that yesterday, and we'll look at how we can cater for everyone by choosing the right tool. Thank you. This I put up yesterday. You are very privileged. Everyone here is very lucky because not many people in Indonesia have a bachelor's degree. Only 0.3% have a bachelor's degree. Only 0.2% have a doctorate degree. 0.3% hold a master's degree, and 5% of Indonesian population have a bachelor degree. So you will become part of the 5%. And because you are becoming part of the 5%, you have a very important job. You have to be leaders. This nation, Indonesia, relies on you to be the best special and inclusive ed teacher or the best educational technology person, teacher in the nation. You have to make a significant contribution because you are lucky. You are lucky that you are having a degree. Most people in Indonesia do not have a bachelor's degree. So you have to be very proud of that and say, I'm important. I'm going to make a difference. That's important. Don't just be quiet and not strong. You are becoming educators and you are representing UNESA, and we want them to know that when you come out of UNESA, you are great teachers. You are committed to special and inclusive education. You are committed to educational technologies. It is your job to uncut the nation. It's a big job, isn't it? But you can only do that big job if you kerjasama and if you support your partners and your faculty and your university. That's important. Thank you, Pat. Also important are addressing our international sustainable development goals. So for special ed students, which goals do you address? Yang mana? Angkat tangan kalau ada jawaban. Jangan malu. Apa? Nomor yang mana? Oh, Bu. Yang mana? Nomor 1, no poverty. Yep, we can do that maybe in your school. Nomor 1. Yes. Apa lagi? Nomor yang mana? What nama siapa? Nanya? Number 4, quality education. Yes, everyone, not just this group, not just special ed or technology, elementary, secondary, ed management, everyone's responsible for quality education. Because remember, you're the 5% of bachelor degree and teachers. So it has to be. What else? Apa lagi? Gender equality, yes. Any equality. Any equality is important. Yes, gender equality. And that's difficult in some countries. Some countries it's not as easy. I mean, I'm looking at all your deans. Di atas. Dan semua orang. Orang laki-laki. Mungkin, yeah. So it's different. But we can, and life is changing, and that's important, and that's why the Sustainable Development Goals are for the whole world. So gender equality. Apa lagi? Apa lagi? The pink one, Barbie. No more? Sepuluh. Inequality. Inequality. Apa lagi? Neni? Yang mana? Special ed or education technologies. Industry, innovation and infrastructure. Yes. Because if we have an education technology policy and I live in Makassar up in the hills and I don't have electricity or power, is that equal? Is that fair? No. Government, we need to provide technology access to everybody. At the moment, technology access is mainly metrocentric in the cities. And you get out of the cities and it's not so, access is difficult. So these goals are not just for us as teachers, they are for governments to make decisions. They are for everybody, anyone who makes policy. So if you're not familiar with these, please become familiar. Your university, your schools will be judged on these. We are all responsible for this now. This is an international mandate, I suppose. And ultimately, UNESA, as well as University of Newcastle, want to be number 16, peace, justice and strong institutions. Our universities have to be strong. They have to be good. And we have to do good. So if you're not familiar, please go on and Google Sustainable Development Goals, because everything you do should be mapped against that. That's what the whole world has said is important. And as teachers, we have to address that. So thank you. The other one that I talked about yesterday, and this will be yesterday, today and next week, this to me is one of the most important pictures. This to me helps us get the Sustainable Development Goals. Reality is that many people have more than others. And in Indonesia, that gap is huge. You have some of the most wealthiest people in the world in Indonesia. You have a huge number of billionaires. Not just millionaires, you have billionaires in Indonesia, and lots of them. Australia, we have some, but only small numbers, because we've got a small country. In Indonesia, you have a large country, you have a large number of people with a lot of money. Then you have a lot of people who also have not much money. And that gap is wide. What we need to do is make sure that the people with lots of money, who are in power and who are making decisions, make decisions not for themselves, but make decisions for the poor and those that don't have much. And that is a responsibility. Itu tanggung jawab government and policy. So reality is many rich, lots of poor, and some in the middle. We sometimes think if we give everyone the same, that it's equal. and we say we want equality. But that's actually not what we want. We want equity. If you look at that picture, if I just give everyone a box, still only some people can see. So that's not equitable. It's not, it's equality, it's not equitable. So the third one, equity, is you give, and particularly you know this in special education, this is the base, in the foundational onto special education. You're looking at equity, not equality or reality, you're looking at equity. You want to give students with disabilities or learning disabilities, you want to give them different things to meet their needs so they can see or access. So that's why this is really important. For the technology people, we can't just give everyone access. We actually have to give everyone different things. Because if I'm living in a rural and remote school and I have no power, how do I learn technologies? It's actually not fair. And then we say, oh, the rural people, they're not clever, they don't do this, they're not that. That is so wrong. We cannot judge rural or poor people based on what they can do because their environment around them allows them not to improve unless we help them, unless we have good teachers, unless we have access. So any questions? Ultimately, one day we will have liberation where everything is, we have universal by design, we have access everywhere. One day, utopia on the end. But at the moment, where do we sit? Sekarang di mana? Reality, equality, equity, or liberation? Here in Surabaya. Reality. Reality. So we need to make sure that reality becomes equity. And your job as a teacher in your class is to help that. If you do one thing, that's the one thing that is going to give our disadvantage more advantage. We need to look at equity. We have to move it from reality, and in our schools and in our classrooms and at this university, we look at equity. We put our equity glasses on. Okay, thank you. Next, sorry. Then, as again yesterday I said, not only do we look at equity, we have to look at this place. Surabaya is a great place. What makes Surabaya special? Is it special for educational technologies? Yes. I've just seen you've got, I think there's been some big advancements and investment in technologies in Surabaya from other countries. So they're trying to help with technology. So technology is a good thing. How is Surabaya placed for access for students with special needs and inclusive ed? Are we strong? Is it a strength of Surabaya? Growing.
Claiming as an inclusive school for everyone. Yeah.
That's great. That's fantastic. So those things you should be proud of. You should be proud that Surabaya is what's kemajuan? No, something like that. Berkembangan. So it's important that you remember that Indonesia is not like other countries, and you shouldn't, jangan dibandingkan dengan negeri lain. Indonesia is Indonesia. This is your place, and you are working on making your place better or different in somewhat different ways. So be proud of your place. When you do your research, when you do your studies, be specific to your Indonesia piece, because you are different. You've got a different curriculum now. You've got Panchasila back there being student focused with the Panchasila requirements. So all of those things are good. Thank you. And then the last one, that's similar to what we talked about yesterday, is no matter if you teach special inclusive ed or if you teach education technologies, you cannot just teach them the technology or the cognition, the knowledge. It cannot just be knowledge. You have to teach them the affective domain and the psychomotor domains. They're the three domains of learning. If you look at Bloom's taxonomy, three domains of learning: cognition, affective domain, psychomotor. Your brain, your heart and how you moderate, how you self-regulate, how you behave, your manners, your respect, that's your affective domain. And then there's your psychomotor, your physicality. Are you fit? Are you healthy in mind and body? And sometimes our school system and our university system don't make those even. Which one do our schools prioritise? Which one? Cognition, affective or psychomotor in Indonesia?
Cognitive, I guess.
Yes. Cognition? Yes. We test, we test, we test. We give them facts, we give them knowledge, we give them curriculum, we focus on that. Not a lot of attention is on affective. We don't teach them how to manage themselves, how to be respectful, how to have good morals, how to care for other people. I think you do here, but I'm just saying generally you don't. And then psychomotor, only the fit ones can be sporty. But psychomotor and physicality is making sure that your fine motor and your gross motor skills are good and that you are healthy, you are fit, because if you're not healthy or not fit, life makes life a bit more difficult. So you need to make sure that your body, your heart, your mind and your body is fit. Your brain is fit, your heart is fit and your body is fit. And that makes a really good focus of a good teacher, but also focus of a good student. If I had someone very, very, very clever who did not care about anybody else and was in government making decisions, would he care and make decisions that would impact the poor or the disadvantaged? Or would he care about just himself and making money? These are when we have an imbalance between one or the other, then we have consequences of that. Only focused on teaching and learning, not getting out and being fit, not meeting and working with others and caring. So that was difficult. So if we want to look at the whole person approach to education, we can do that by employing inclusive practices, which you know as special inclusive ed. You know it as education technologists because technology helps you be inclusive. You have flexible learning approaches. So it's not, and you're already doing that at Surabaya. You've got online, you've got face-to-face, you've got working from home, you've got a whole range of different things. You've got emerging technologies, and I'll talk about some of those soon. We talked about being responsive to place, and our places in Newcastle, we have Newcastle, but we have small communities that are isolated. We have popular beach surfside places. We have unpopular places. So we have to make sure that we're catering for all of those. And then we do backwards by design principles and universal by design principles. Okay, so thank you. When I talk about teaching, I'm talking about those three things with technology wrapping it up. Thank you. The global view of learning, because learning are those three things: cognitive, affective, physicality. This is the OECD. This is another global push. And this is how they describe learning. So learning, knowledge, skills, attitudes. competencies: reflection, action, anticipation, and then that means we have well-being by individuals and the society. So, like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the OECD have this as learning goals for 2030. And nearly every country is looking at this and seeing how they are coping with this. I like it because it's got the three different areas. If you look at skills, it's got cognition, social, emotional, physical and practical. They're those three things I talked about before. Those skills are right there. Okay, so that's learning captured globally. This is how the global international world describes learning. So if you're not aware of that, this is really important to actually go back to. It's a framework for learning. Your new curriculum has elements of that, that's for sure. So I'm trying to position this talk today in the global, but then to the local. So that's a good, if you haven't got a photo of that, I think I'm giving out the PowerPoints as well, like yesterday. You'll get all of these PowerPoints. Okay? So, Tupac Ricky, of course. Okay, thank you. Then there's the rule of threes, and it's got to do with cognition, and it's got to do with affective domain, and it's got to do with physicality. In your life, you have the rule and law of threes. Down the bottom, I've added local, national, and global. But the law of three says that 3 is the optimal thing for processing, cognitive processing, or decision making. When you're working with items at a time, you need to go through one at a time, but they say 3 makes you more productive. A famous philosopher, Comte, in the 1800s talked about 3 stages of human development. Most in the olden days, theology and religion was their base. Then they moved into the metaphysical and then the scientific. So there's all 3, and that's our lives. Some of us are religious, then we've got our learnings, and then we're scientific. So we've got all 3. If you're Christian, on the left-hand side, that's the Holy Trinity. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Three parts. If you look at learning, cognitive, affective, psychomotor, 3 parts. If you look at your life, birth, life, death, 3 parts. If you look at your traffic lights, red, yellow, green, 3 parts. If you look at schooling, you have student, teacher, families, 3 parts. If you want to survive, that's also in 3s. You can live without air for 3 minutes. You can live without shelter in extreme heat or cold if you're out in the desert or if you're in the ice for 3 hours only. You can live without water for 3 days. And you can live without food for 3 weeks. All of our lives are made up of 3s. When you do a to-do list, you always go 1, 2, 3. Whenever you hear someone present, if they're good at presenting, they'll go 1, 2, 3. 3 dot points only. In your life, what are some of the 3s? What are some of the 3s? Any more? What about history? Past, present, future. Past, present, future. What about when you're teaching? What do you have to do when you teach? What are the 3 things you do as a good teacher? Plan, implement, evaluate. 3. Everything's in 3s. It's weird, isn't it? But it's good to remind us that most things we do in 3s. And when we ask our children to do things, do not ask them to do more than 3 at a time. Special inclusive ed people, you certainly know that. You only give them one task at a time sometimes, but don't give them more than 3. It's too much to cognitively take in. Any questions on that? Ada pertanyaan tentang rule of 3 or law of 3s? Ada pertanyaan? Apakah ini baru? Is this new for you? Yeah? Yes, good. Is it useful? Any beneficial manfaat? Yeah, good. Okay, thanks. Next. So I'm going to go through some things that are 3s that will help with teaching for technologies or special inclusive ed. This one is backward by design. It says, if you want to teach, know what the end point is. What do you want them to get at the end? Then, what evidence or assessment have you got to show that? And lastly, that's when you do your planning. That's when you're doing your teaching, learning. But at the moment, we typically start with number 3. That's the wrong place to start. We start and should start with number 1. What do we want the students to get out of it? What tests or what assessments or what knowledge do we know that we need to collect to show that they've actually attained that? So, if I'm learning how to high jump, if I'm learning how to learning how to ride a horse, because next week I'm going to go and ride a horse. Night kuda. That's my outcome. How am I going to assess whether I can ride a horse or not? How am I going to assess that? What evidence? So number 1, I want to learn how to ride a horse. Okay, number 1, I'm going to be able to ride a horse. My assessment is what? What evidence, what assessment will show me that I've reached my goal? Remember, my goal is ride a horse. What will my assessment be? What will my assessment be if my goal was to ride a horse?
Ride a horse without falling in 10 meters.
Okay, ride a horse. That's a great assessment. Ride a horse. So my goal is to ride a horse. My assessment that I've achieved that goal is evidenced by if I can ride a horse. That's how simple it is. But then I make my lessons and I do my planning so that I can ride a horse. So that's when I plan. So what sort of things would I do? What would my lessons look like? From the audience. Anyone? So, riding a horse is my goal. Number 1, what's my goal? Number 2, what evidence? And the evidence is, so I want to ride my goal is to ride a horse. The evidence and the assessment will be riding a horse. But how do I learn to ride a horse is the planning that has to happen down here. How do I learn? Who's already knows how to ride a horse?
Get to know the horse.
Get to know the horse.
Preparing
Preparing the horse. Sitting on the horse. Having someone walk around with you on the horse.
and learn how to
And learn how to steer.
Yeah.
So all of those things become my learnings. So when you're planning your lesson, what's the goal? What assessment will show that you've met that goal? So assessment is first, it's not last. And then once you know that that assessment is going to show you if you've reached your goal, then you do your teaching and learning based on achieving that goal. It's quite a different approach.
Actually, we use that approach, the backward
By
design
design?
approach,
Perfect.
in educational technology, but for designing the training.
Oh,
So for designing the instruction,
right.
we use like the usual from the objective learning instruction and so on until the
Yep.
evaluation. But in designing the training, we use the backward design approach because we focus on the skills.
Yes, and that's what we should be doing, teaching in general.
Also,
Yeah, because your goals, I mean, if the goal is not clear, and if you can't show evidence that you've reached your goal, then we're doing a lot of planning for not a lot of outcome. So we need to be clear of our outcomes first. So I'm glad to hear you using UBD, but it should be more embedded. Thank you. So that's one lot of threes. Backward by design, 1, 2, 3. Thanks, Matt. Whoop, whoop, back. Back. Oh, sorry, yep, one down. So that's the backward by design, which Ed Technologies are using for design principles, but not for lessons or planning. So that's a simple way of doing it for you. So you're starting at different, you're looking at your goals, then you're looking at evidence that shows you that you've met those goals, and then you might start doing your planning. We often start planning first without realizing what our goals are. So this helps you streamline it. Thank you. Terima kasih. So this is your Panchasila, and then there's UBD down the bottom. What's the desired goal? What evidence? What learning plans? What's your learning plan? So your desired goal for which one? Being creative. What evidence do you need to show that you're being creative?
product.
Typically, yeah, it would be a product of some sort. So it could be an art piece, it would be a product of some sort. But then what learning will you need to take place to get them to get to that product? See how it just makes planning easy? If you have a very clear goal and then you know how to evidence it, then your planning becomes much easier. Okay, so thanks, Pat. This is just, I'm not going to go on this one, this is just your Indonesian curriculum, and they do it in 1, 2, 3 as well. Curriculum structure, learning achievement, learning assessment principles. Learning assessment should, I think, be second, and learning it, yeah, anyhow, we could, if you use backward by design, that would be different. That article, if you want to, that talks about how the curriculum is being implemented by Innovasi, a company called Innovasi. It's a good read. So if you haven't sort of read that one, there's an English and an Indonesian version, and sorry, I put up the English version. Thanks, Pat. One of the ones that I didn't put in yesterday, but it's going to be good for you, is our quality teaching model. At University of Newcastle, we have the quality teaching model. It is one of our pillars. It's under the Teaching Research Centre. So they say when you are teaching, you have to think of their intellectual quality, the environment in which they're learning, and the significance of what they are learning. So what knowledge are you giving students? What environment are you doing it in? And how are you connecting it to their place? So the talk about place-based is this last one, the significance of it. So the quality teaching model has 3 dimensions and 18 elements, and that was developed and built in Newcastle, and we use that all around the world. Different countries borrow that from us, and we do lots of sessions on it, and it certainly links to some of the things that we've talked about before. It follows the rule of 3. It looks at intellectual quality, but it also looks at the learning environment in which you are going to teach. And if you look at student self-regulation, that's the affective domain. Social support is affective, all of those engagements. And then the last one is your significance. Okay? So that's our welcome to the Newcastle Quality Teaching Model. If you don't know about it, it's all free on the website. If you go to the website, all the knowledge there is free, and if it's an area that you like, then we can look at supporting you on it. So that's the quality teaching model, another rule of 3. Thank you. Right. This one that you already know probably for special inclusive ed, and you definitely know with education technologies, a lot of your theories are similar between special inclusive ed and technologies, because it's all about making things accessible, making things inclusive, and looking at usability. Okay? So what does that mean when you actually, what's it mean for you as a teacher? You have to make things accessible. If I'm in a wheelchair and there's no ramps, I haven't made it accessible. If I've got knowledge and I'm only giving it to my clever students and not adapting it to my ones that haven't got that knowledge yet, then I'm not making it accessible, or I'm not being inclusive. And the usability is not there. So that simple universal design says that if you have universal designed learning, you have to be inclusive, you have to have accessibility, and you have to have your usability. Now, on the bottom left-hand side, equitable access. That's not happening at the moment anywhere. There's a big gap between equity and access, and that's something we could probably look at. Our inclusive practices are getting better, and our usability, making it intuitive, is getting better too, particularly with technologies, and we'll talk about that later. Keep going. Thank you, Pat. Another one in rule of 3 is what we call the rule of 3 in terms of how you practice and how you teach and how you behave. Look at how you talk. Look at how you talk, look at what you do, and look at how you relate to others. Are you kind? Are you mean? Are you isolating? Are you disrespectful? If you look at, as future teachers, you are role models. Remember, you are 5% of the lucky people in Indonesia that have a degree. And because of that, everything you say, everything you do, and how you relate to people, particularly children, will determine the culture that you develop. If you want a safe, inclusive culture, then you have to be very aware of the power of what you say, what you do, and how you relate. It's a pretty simple task, but it's probably, to me, one of the most powerful. So, in Australia, and this will be an example. In Australia, if someone was speaking while a presenter was talking, that would be considered rude. But I don't know if that's the same culturally here. So, we need to really look at what we say, what we do, how we relate, and put it in the place. Okay? So that's really important, the sayings, doings, relatings. To me, it's fundamental to how I operate. I want to be a role model, and I want to make sure that what I say, what I do, and how I relate is respectful, is inclusive, because then it will actually build a culture that is safe and inclusive. Okay, thank you. Okay, now we get to using the right tool for the right job in the right way. As educators, you are being taught, you're given a whole range of choices on how to teach. You technology people, you're given so many different technologies all the time that the choice is really difficult. And so technology is pushing teachers instead of teachers using the tools to teach properly. So the powerful companies are giving you tools that may not be appropriate. So as future education technology teachers and special inclusive ed teachers, or any teachers, you have to choose the right tool. You don't do it just because it's there. Sometimes it's easier just to lift a pen and a piece of paper. So you choose the technology that is the right fit for the right person, in the same as way that you choose the right teaching method to suit the children in your classrooms. And it goes back to equity. If I look at this group at the front, some of you will need more support than others. And that's equity. Okay? So, then we go back to those domains of learning. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So when you're choosing tools with emerging technologies, think about what tools can help you with cognition, the affective domain, and the psychomotor. If a child only ever plays games that shoots and kills people, that's the only game they play, and their parents let them do it and the schools let them do it, they shoot and kill people all the time, how does that affect their affective domain? It is going to have an impact. Technologies will have an impact on our children. It's okay if they do the shoot them ups and whatever, but not all the time. They have to realise that there's consequences to that. We have so many shootings and deaths things now and killings that people are attributing to some of the violent games we are playing and allowing our children to play on computers. So with emerging technologies, you have to be very careful and teach your children about the importance of different sorts of games. Don't say don't play them, you just make them very aware that that is not real. Okay? Do you see that in your schools? Are your children using games that only shoot and kill? Or disrespect women? Access to pornography is really big these days because of technology. I can do pornography anywhere, anytime, any place. Young children are looking at porn. So that's why the affective domain and your role as a teacher is really important, to show children how to be a bit more discerning and a bit more caring for others. Technologies are great, but they also have a negative side. Thank you, Pat. Yeah, not now, not until 11 o'clock. Yeah. So with technologies, what they've done, this is for when iPads first came out. And there's a QR code up there. When iPads first came up, technologies were everywhere. Teachers didn't know what to use. So what they did is they got the SAMAR model, which is, substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. They've got that model, but they also used Bloom's taxonomy in the middle. So remember, understand, apply, analyze, and explore and create. So in the middle are Bloom's taxonomies, and all of the apps can be grouped under each of those. So it's helping teachers choose the right tool for the right job. Because if you look at some of our applications, they may only just do remembering ones. And with AI, it will become, our cognitive piece was going to be improved with AI. But it's not going to help us with the affective domain or the physicality one. So we have to accept AI. It's going to be part of us. And I'll show you the next one in a minute. But if you're not used to this, this is a pedagogical wheel. And it links Bloom's taxonomy to all of the apps and sites that are around. It's been going on for a long time. The guy from South Australia, Alan Carrington, designed it a long time ago. I think it's up to version 6 or something. No, version 5. Let's go. Thank you. In the same way, ChatGTP and AI, they're starting to actually look at how they can use that within Bloom's taxonomy, etc. So they're showing you all the different things that are out there. So what's happening is the world knowing that technology is everywhere and anywhere, but not knowing how to actually use it. We've got people now who are trying to help us use it. So you can do it for teaching or you can do it for learning in this particular one. There's other models that have it for Bloom's taxonomy. There's other models that use it for questioning techniques or writing techniques. But this one shows you how you can use ChatGTP for teaching and how you can use ChatGTP or other things in learning. Okay? So there are lots of people helping you pick the right tool. Thank you. This is what we do, and we've picked 3 tools at University of Newcastle: SimSchool, SimTeach, SimCave, and I just want to give you a quick look at the video.
Nggak masalah.
Simulation here in the School of Education to first of all introduce our students to the skills of teaching, but also support students as they develop their teaching skills.
And we've got SimSchool, SimTeach and our immersive iCave. They all do slightly different things, give our students different opportunities to harness sort of future-focused skills and attributes which prepare them to be like work-ready graduates. SimSchool is a web-based artificial intelligence engine which gives the students opportunities to We're using simulation here in the School of Education to first of all introduce our students to the skills of teaching, but also support students as they develop their teaching skills. And we've got SimSchool, SimTeach and our immersive iCave. They all do slightly different things, give our students different opportunities to harness sort of future-focused skills and attributes which prepare them to be like work-ready graduates. SimSchool is a web-based artificial intelligence engine which gives the students opportunities to practice lots of different classroom management strategies. They get to learn how to sequence, program, they can respond and reflect on their own pedagogical practices as well, and it's preloaded prompts into an artificial intelligence engine. SimTeach, on the other hand, is where the students get an opportunity to do a micro-teach.
For a number of years, we've been using SimTeach to help our students develop their skills, where our students do small lessons to a group of avatars.
They've actually got live actors behind the avatars in that particular platform. So the avatars respond to the students' commands and instructions and prompts in real time, which makes it a very, very different experience from SimSchool, where they actually choose from a list of pre-selected commands.
There's also a parent conversation that our students can have and an interview with the principal. And so the idea is that they're practicing scenarios and it's interactive and it feels very real indeed.
The iCave is an incredible space. It's an immersive space where students can actually travel to remote locations. They can experience different types of schooling environments. They also can become co-creators of the digital technologies here. So it's not just being passive consumers of the technology, they're actually becoming architects and co-creators, which actually they can then use it to embed in their own pedagogical practice.
We're really building teachers for the contemporary educational context.
that's learning design. So that's the combination of the picture I gave you, but universal design is the design and composition of an environment so it can be assessed, understood and used to the greatest extent by all people, regardless of their age, their size, their ability or disability. It's looking at the environment in which you are setting to actually do the learning. If your environment is not accessible, if it's not inclusive and it's not usable, then you've got a bad learning environment. Thank you. Next. Along with that environment are these three things: how you write, what you speak, and your digital communication is all part of that universal design. So if I have a deaf student in my class, I need to make adjustments. If I've got someone in a wheelchair, I have to make adjustments. And special inclusive ed know everything about adjustments and accommodations. So thank you. So part of your learning environment are these things. So there's the physical learning environment, but there's also these pieces of your learning environment. Next. Where technologies match with special inclusive education is this, the assistive technologies that support students with special needs. So your assistive technologies, and this is why your technology people should be working with special inclusive ed people and your design people to look at what communication aids are there. In technology now, Zoom, if you're doing a Zoom meeting, you should always have the transcription thing on. Doesn't matter if your children, if you've just got a general classroom, you should always have your transcription words on in your Zoom meetings, because some people are better at seeing and understanding words than hearing. So your communication aids have to be really clear. Your mobility aids, your vision aids, your hearing aids, and your cognitive aids, the things that can help you cognitively. So your AI, your any of the programs that can help you get quicker at things, so that automaticity in mathematics comes. You become automated and quick in computer typing. Who is teaching typing skills? We use computers all the time, but we don't teach them how to type. Go figure. I mean, it does not make sense. So why are we not teaching them those skills? Someone will say, oh, because they only use their phones. It's not. Most people don't. We need to still know how to type. And to be able to have touch typing skills is an absolute asset in this day and life. And we don't teach it. And it still surprises me. So cognitive aids, hearing aids, vision aids, mobility aids, but certainly your communication aids. Any Zoom meeting, stick your translations on, transcriptions. Zoom meetings, make sure that you can see them so that you can actually know that they're there, rather than just stick the computer on, stick the picture on, and they could be off shopping or sewing. When we are engaging with people teaching, we need to engage with them. Okay, next. So when trying to bring it all together, we have our pedagogies of practice, we have our focus on the whole child, which is cognition, affective and psychomotor, and we have the emerging technologies, 1, 2, 3. How we pull them all together is the important piece. So that's trying to bring everything together, and that's your clear direction as a future teacher. Okay? Thank you. So to keep it last, and I've done a similar thing yesterday, educational technologies and special ed. Children are complex. We know that. They have affective, cognitive and psychomotor needs. Education is complex. Teaching is complex. And choice is complex, choosing the right tool. So finally, I'm suggesting that as education technology people in special inclusive education, create the culture and the outcomes you want by your sayings, doings and relatings, and using that universal design I presented today. And that is it. Perfectly timed for 11 o'clock. How's that?
we don't have time for the question and
Oh, yes,
answer.
lots of questions.
How is-
I've got time for questions, haven't I? I think I've got time for questions.
Okay, two questions. Any questions, teman-teman? Tadi dipaparkan oleh Su bahwa penekanan pada the rule of three. Semua itu baik di kehidupan, baik di kepercayaan, baik di pendidikan. Rule of three itu pengaruh banget sebetulnya. Dan kalau jadi acuan tadi yang pertama kita ada apa tadi? Ada SDG sebagai acuan baru kita, ada Global View of Learning dari OECD, sama yang terakhir Seven Principles of UDL. UDL ini we also already applied it in our design, and we also teach it to the students in Educational Technology Department. Dan yang lain-lain nanti materinya bisa ditranslate. Kalau ditranslate semua nggak nutupin. Ada pertanyaan mungkin? Silahkan. Sambil menunggu pertanyaan. Oh, yang di Zoom. Oke. Yang di Zoom ada pertanyaan kah, Mas? So, from me, while waiting for the question, can we say that the effort to provide the equality is also the effort towards the equity?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because I can see that the governments, the university are striving to provide the equality, but I also recognize it as an effort to provide the equity, to assure.
On that,
Yeah.
it is it's a progression.
Mm.
So we have reality, but we want to move to equality, move to equity, and then
Yeah.
move to liberation.
Yeah.
So yes, if we focus on equality, that's getting us closer.
Mm. Okay. Yes. Any question from Zoom participants? Teman-teman yang di Zoom, Bapak Ibu dosen di Zoom, atau teman-teman mahasiswa S1, S2, S3? I can see. Nyari kacamata. I can see ada mahasiswa S1, S2, S3, silahkan. Okay, so far no, ya.
Ada? I love those avatars.
Yeah,
Very cool.
Bu Tari Dewi from.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Okay, coba. I'll try to understand. Yeah. 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 Look, I think, as you said, we can't compare Australia with Indonesia. And if we could develop some of those things, if we can put some of those things, in Indonesia, like the Sim School, the gaming one is very cheap. It's a cheap one, and it would be great for all of your students. And you could use it for lots of different classes. It is much cheaper if you do it and use it in lots of classes. That's the Sim School. Then you can use Sim Teach, just special for the whole class. It doesn't have to be individual. So you can use the tools differently here to achieve different things. There's already 360 goggles, so you don't need a big room. You could just use the same thing for goggles. So it's just working out what's the starting point. What tool is going to benefit your students most at this moment? And I would say maybe Sim School for everybody, but Sim Teach for before they go on placement or something like that. Really targeted. Mungkin. I don't know if I answered that well.
Sudah ada teknologinya masuk di Sim School itu.
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. I missed that piece. I missed that little bit. Yes. We have students with disabilities, many of them. We have a big percentage of disability, big percentage of low SES, big percentage of student first in family with a degree. Hands up here, first in family with a degree. I think most of your children will be first in family, the first people from their family to come and get a degree. Yeah. In Australia, in Newcastle, our school, our university, specifically looks after students from disadvantaged or social or people first in family. Because once you get one person in your family with a degree, you tend to get more afterwards. So we have 60-something% of our students at University of Newcastle are first in family. No, naturally, because we're in the region, a regional centre. Yeah. And we also, in New South Wales, we also have the biggest number of Indigenous teachers coming into our school. So, and we have quite a few students with disabilities or abilities. Yeah. I'm running late, aren't I, Ricky?
Yeah, I also get lots of message. I
Yeah.
believe Pak Ricky too.
Yeah, coming. Okay. So look, thank you everyone for your talk today. I will give you the PowerPoint so you don't have to take notes. The PowerPoints are there and we're heading off. Bye-bye.
Ya, terima kasih Ibu Bapak dan teman-teman semuanya. Applause untuk Susan Ledger. Thank you so much. Ya, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Kami kembalikan lagi kepada MC. Menutup.
Okay, thank you so much for moderator and the speaker for the amazing discussion.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're leading to the end of the event. But before that, we will enter the last session, which is the handling of certificate from the present Faculty of Education to Professor Susan Ledger. Yes, so we will give you certificate and the photographer can take a picture. For joining us today, and may this event give you an amazing experiences, and hopefully we can